Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we'll be talking about Tottenham's 3-0 win against Elfsborg in the Europa League. Spurs are through to the last 16 of the competition. Now, we're live on YouTube, X, Facebook and Twitch, so please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. I'm sure everyone's got a smile on their face, seeing the youth, seeing the academy get us through to the last 8 with a win this evening at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I've got 3 special guest with me, returning guest Gareth McGuinness, all the way from Ireland. Gareth, how are you?
All good, Chris. Brilliant to be on after a good one. I'm sure we'll speak about it, but I didn't know if I was going to come in the end. Starting to get a wee bit touchy, especially after what happened on Sunday, but brilliant. I mean, it couldn't have worked out any better. I mean, 3 young kids, come on. I know Scarlett's, we've seen a lot more of him over the years, but per player at times and without knowing, but brilliant for the 3 boys. And look, we've had a lot of discussion in the group chat, Chris, about we need something to galvanise the group, maybe a signing coming on. But I think that tonight, you've seen the connection with the older players, the injured players, the youngsters, the manager. I think that's massive for the group.
Absolutely. We'll get into the football in a second, Gareth. Also back with us is Dustin Lau, all the way from Singapore. Dustin, good evening. How are you?
It's morning here. The game was on from 4 a.m. to 6, so you can see the sun rising behind me.
Good morning.
That's why I'm in my pajamas. Yeah, good to have a win to talk about.
Great to have you here with us and joining us for the first time on the Spurs Chat podcast. But of course, Matt has joined us for one of the fan shows before. We've got Matt Fielder with us, of course, singer from Ransom. Matt, how are you? Great to have you here.
I'm great. Yeah, it's great to be here, actually. I sat and watched the game tonight on a really dodgy stream. Kept flashing up with porn every 5 seconds. Well, it was good. It was good to watch the game. Lots of smiles. So I stepped down to celebrate. I had a chance of a Newcastle brown or pink gin. So it was either pink or brown. So I went with the pink. So I'm with the gin. So I'm really happy tonight. It's a great sort of thing. So great to be here with you boys. And lovely. Looking forward to talking to football.
Matt, let's get your opinions, first of all, on our 3-0 win this evening. What did you make of it?
Oh, it was good. It was like at the start off, it was like a classic sort of England-Sweden game in a sense, or the old classic where Sweden defending, the team set up just to defend from the start. And I thought it's going to have to have some patience here. And obviously, because we, been firing blanks a little bit recently, I think they were all a little bit kind of a bit up tense. But I did like the way they were all fighting for each other. Sonny looked back to his best again. He looks like want to take people on again. He seems to have that desire back. They're all fighting for each other. I think having Mickey van der Ven at the back as well really helped. I think he just, that bit of class and a bit of confidence to the rest of them. I think you noticed Archie Gray liked having him there. I think that really showed off. But just the way the youngsters came on at the end, it was just joy. I've been telling everyone about Mikey Moore for ages, about what a great player he is. I watched him play for the academy and I said, you've got to watch this guy. He's going to be great. And just to see him score at the end, I mean, all 3 of them brilliant, but Mikey Moore particularly, you could just see it written across his face. Yes, at last, I've arrived. Brilliant stuff.
Gareth, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on this evening's win.
Well, Chris, actually, before we talk, I want to congratulate you on your award. Of course, you won that award today, so for fair play, and it's well deserved. Absolutely incredible. Of course, when you go on for these awards, you always dream of winning, but I mean, they won that award overall. All our contestants is absolutely incredible. And to be fair, it just shows you that hard work doesn't go without reward. And sometimes you need, like we got that reward tonight with a win. Sometimes you just need that shot in the arm because it's been difficult, Chris. Like, I think we spoke about it the other day. I says to you, I don't know how you're managing to keep going and going and going with the shows when we're in this run of form. And look, there's your shot in the arm tonight, the good reward. So, no, absolutely brilliant. But getting back to the football, I think Matt would have been forgiven for clicking on one of them adverts because for 60 or 70 minutes, I mean, there wasn't much happening. I was quite disengaged. My dad actually fell asleep during the game. That never happens. So, I mean, that shows you there wasn't really a lot happening. We had a lot of possession. We weren't really doing anything with it. But where injuries have kind of obviously held us back this season, I think, and obviously it's a worry if Dragonson's out long term. I think, funny enough, it kind of changed the game because I think Scarlett come on and it gave us but something different up front. Richarlison was making them runs at the back post, and it kind of changed the ship, and it gave us a bit more of a threat. And Mikey Moore going back on the right hand side where he got his goal in the end. He looked a bit more lively as well. So look, funny one, the way that like an injury can almost be a positive on the night. And of course, we hope Radu isn't going to be out too long because we're in desperate need of reinforcements. And I'm sure we'll speak about the transfer window later on, Chris. But look, I think the 60 or 70 minutes when Scarlett scored, but I think the last 20 minutes kind of will take over as the headline from the first 70 minutes because of the youngsters scoring the goals. I think that gives them all. No, we've won games this year, Chris. You think about the Tamworth game. It was an uninspiring one. And let's be honest, if Richarlison had scored a couple tonight, and maybe I'm trying to think, maybe Basuma scored a goal, I don't think people would have been, getting too high. But I think because the youngsters have all come on and scored, it's a real good feel factor one. And the Mikey Moore goal at the end was the cherry on the top, because I actually felt a bit sorry for Mikey because he's had these opportunities and then he sees a guy coming on first touch more or less and bang into the corner, and obviously Mikey would have been pleased for him, but he's probably thinking, oh my god, I'd love to score. And he thought he chance right at the end where he miscontrolled it, and he thought that was possibly his last chance, but with virtually the last kick of the game, he saved his best for last. And 3 fantastic goals, Chris. I think this is on Sunday when we were speaking that the good football, has kind of deserted us in recent weeks. Even the goals we've been scoring haven't really been getting me off the edge of our seat. Whereas the 3 goals we scored tonight was almost like the Ange Postecoglou team we've seen and become accustomed to, where if it goes under the back of net, it's usually a really, really good goal. And all 3 goals tonight were really, really good goals. And, at the end there, I was roaring and shouting when Mikey Moore scored. And I mean, it had no outcome on the result, but I was just so happy because of what happened. And look, I think Elfsborg are pretty much Tamworth standard. So, when Brennan Johnson scored, he made a 3-0 against Tamworth. I didn't have any reaction at all. But tonight, because of the goal scorers, there was a lot of joy and, real sort of, this is the Tottenham boys, Tottenham Academy. And you hear so much about it. And the unfortunate thing is you don't really see too much of it because, you've got so many first-team players available. But in our situation, we've had a call upon some of these youngsters. And, we've had a wee bit of, bad luck with Mikey Moore picking up that virus. He's been missing for a few months. And he seems to be the star of the academy. Last year we've seen bits of, but he's kind of been frozen out again for whatever reason. And Scarlett's had so many loans. You kind of feel that maybe he just needs to get a run of games here. Between now and the end of the season, we're probably going to need him because, Richarlison's going to get injured again. That's what happens. And Solanke's can't play every single game, even though he tries to. But there's always that risk of an injury. And look, I know it was a really poor team we played, but Scarlett looked a lot more mature tonight than I've seen him in recent times. He didn't seem to get bullied or he didn't seem phased. There was a couple of times where he was going up against the 3 big centre halves from Elfsborg, and he never really looked out of place. And I will stress again, it was a really poor team, but they were quite physical, and I think he handled himself quite well. So look, reasons to be positive. I know we've seen a couple of comments, and of course there was a couple of comments in our chat too, Chris. With Ajayi should be playing now over such and such player. I haven't seen Brennan Johnson do that. We have to remain calm. We don't want to destroy these youngsters. They need protection as well. You wouldn't, as lovely and romantic as it seems, if you seen Ajayi, Mikey Moore, and they and Scarlett all playing on Sunday, you'd be a wee bit worried that the lack of Premier League experience against a real seasoned Brentford team, how difficult that could be. So whilst we can be excited about these youngsters, we do have to protect them as well.
Absolutely. You beat me to it, Gareth. So I'm going to thank every single viewer and listener for voting for us, because this evening we did learn that we won the Sports Podcast Award, the Gold Award for the Best Sports Team Podcast, which is absolutely incredible. So I cannot thank everybody enough for all of your support and your voting. Dustin, before I come to you, I'm just going to go through a few details here. Tottenham 3, Elfsborg 0. Dane Scarlett got Tottenham's first goal in the 70th minute. Ajayi, on his debut, which of course we'll talk about in a second, scored Tottenham's second goal in the 84th minute, and Mikey Moore rounding things up in the 94th minute, becoming the youngest English scorer in major European competition, 17 years old, 172 days. Now, the match facts and stats here. Tottenham had 81.3% of the ball to Elfsborg's 18.7%. Shots, Spurs had 21, Elfsborg 4. Shots on target, Spurs had 11, Elfsborg had 0. Total touches inside the box, Tottenham with a staggering 60 to Elfsborg's 7. Goalkeeper saves, Brandon Austin 0, Elfsborg 7. Fouls, Tottenham 5, Elfsborg 11. And corners, Spurs had 10 to Elfsborg's 0. Now, the starting 11 this evening, Brandon Austin, Pedro Porro, Gray, Van der Ven was back. Great to see him back in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt. Of course, spent a long time out injured. Davis, Sarr, Bentancur, Bergvall, Moore, Richarlison and Son. And Tottenham Hotspur have finished 4th in the Europa League table, 17 points from the 8 games. Dustin, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on this evening's win.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo what Gareth said, which is initially we did make it tough going. I'm looking at my notes here, and there was nothing of note really until Dragusin went off. I can't miss out on making the joke with Matt about how he was probably seeing more penetration on his ads than we were in the game. But once Dragusin went off, we actually did see. And it's not necessarily Dragusin's fault, but it's just like from build-up play, Van der Ven just gives us so much more. So I think when Dragusin went off, what we did see was that with the change in shape and the fact that we had so much possession, we didn't need a good defensive centre-back as much as we needed good build-up play. So having Dane Scarlett on and having the youngsters play with a bit more bravery and have a lot more of the one-touch passing and the quick runs through the middle, which is what we have been missing from our very overplayed first teamers. We started to see a lot more penetration and a lot more verve in attack.
Dustin, what do you make of the starting 11 this evening? Were you happy with it?
We've been waiting to see Van der Ven back in the starting lineup for months, and I was worried about whether it would mean whether we rushed him back and we would lose him to injury again. So I wasn't very surprised to see him go off at halftime. And a lot of people have said that it's better for an injured player to start from the beginning when he's got a proper warm-up rather than sit on the cold bench and come into a game halfway. So I think that on the whole, having Van der Ven back, unfortunately losing Dragusin, but having Van der Ven back, keeping a clean sheet, no new injuries other than Dragusin, and three goals from the youth academy. That's probably the best news we've had for 2 or 3 months.
Matt, let's come to you. How impressed were you with the development players today? Because of course it does appear that the youth got us out of trouble this evening, getting us to 3 points in the Europa League. What also did you make of the starting 11 today?
Yeah, well, I think he's really got to kind of juggle it around. We've been hearing all week about the injuries and about he's only got fit 11, but I think we can see. I mean, I've been following the academy for a while now. I think we've got so much talent in there. It was just nice to see them get on. It was just they're playing, with the kind of like with the harnesses off. They seemed really free when they came on, and I think something that I've always felt. It's always about confidence with most players and youngsters. If you give them a chance to say, just go on and do what you do. Was it Harry Redknapp? He said, just go and run about a bit. Just get on there and do your thing. I mean, you could see they like playing with each other as well. And there was almost that team ethic with the three of them as well when they went on. They all knew where each other was gonna be, which I kind of like. On my screen, it had Elf up there, and I kept thinking of Lord of the Rings and the orcs fighting, and that was what I was kind of thinking. Actually, I dreamt actually that I wrote Lord of the Rings. Then I woke up and realised I was just Tolkien in my sleep, and that was it. But it's a little joke for you there. But yeah, and I was very impressed with the youngsters tonight and the goals. It was just joy, wasn't it? The last sort of 10, 15 minutes was just pure joy, wasn't it? It was just like the smiles were back, everyone was happy. And I just think it gives everyone a lift when it from the back, and even the experienced players looking down there will think, great, they've all. And you saw the joy when they hugged each other at the end. That they just wanted to. So I think it was there's a clip of Jed Spence. I don't know if you've seen it, where he just goes, "Oh my God, he's got his hands over his head, going, what the hell have I just witnessed?" So it was great to see. So yeah, definitely.
Gareth, let's get your opinion on the starting 11, because when you look at the bench there, a lot of development players, a little bit of experience on there as well, with the likes of Kulusevski, there, and Basuma, of course. I say on this podcast a lot, and of course a lot of the guests do as well, about when players do get their opportunity, it's about grabbing it. They've certainly done that this evening.
Well, that's it. The youngsters come on and had an unbelievable impact in the game. And let's be honest, that the game was kind of drifting, Chris. Up until that point, I think Dustin, we had a lot of possession, as he said, but we didn't really penetrate. We didn't really cause too many problems. They looked quite comfortable. But I think Scarlett come on and had a massive impact. He was a bit of a nuisance up front, as they would say, and I think Richarlison had that presence at the back post as well. He was unlucky with one. And there seemed to be a lot more intensity at that point. And Ajayi coming on, he made an impact. And just having that confidence and the belief they go and score that goal. The first touch was excellent. I thought Scarlett's link-up play for the goal was excellent as well. Perfect with a pass for Ajayi put in the corner. And sometimes you get that, Chris, we youngsters, the fearlessness, almost like they're playing without pressure. And I think I don't want to be too critical of him because I think he's obviously going to be a top player for us. But you can see we make him there is a lot more pressure on him compared to some of the other youngsters because there's so much talking, not just from Spurs fans and the media, what he's done for the England underage teams as well. There is that kind of focus on him. So again, we have to be very careful of how we try and manage his expectations because he is only 17. You've seen the fella at Arsenal, Namwere as well. He's got ability, but there was a couple of times where he didn't have the best game, and Arsenal fans were hyping him up. And this is going to happen. You're going to get inconsistency. People were saying about Bergville tonight was not his best. That's just part and parcel of football and growing up. And look, we've had a lot of our more experienced players this year lacking consistency. We speak a lot about Basuma, Bentancur, experienced players don't always have the highs every week. Of what we know they're capable of. So you're going to get that with youngsters. So it's just about managing that sort of ceiling that we place on them and let them surprise us, because I think when Mikey Moore got that space tonight, we all kind of expected him to score, and he did. Whereas I think the Ajayi one just completely shocked everyone because, you don't really hear too much about that, about him. So look, it's a great night for them, but it's something that we are going to need players like that over the next couple of weeks because, as far as I'm aware, Romero might be back, and Van de Ven's obviously back now. And it was great to see him in the first half. And look, he looked like he was ready to come back. He didn't look like a player that was not fresh or, feared of opening up his legs. He looked ready, and you can definitely tell this time it isn't a player being rushed back. It's been, I think, Ange says he's trained for up to 10 days before this game, and obviously the plan was to give him 45 minutes, so it'll be a test for him this week because you look at the 3 games and we're going to have to go strong in all 3 games. Funny enough, the priority is probably going to be Liverpool and Aston Villa despite the league position, but I can't see a situation where he rests players on Sunday because of the league form being so bad and the position we're in. Plus there could be, we spoke about this last week, Chris, Ipswich playing Southampton and Everton playing Leicester. It's crazy to even think this, but results could go against us. If Ipswich won against Southampton, which you would expect because Southampton have been really struggling all season, and then there's going to be a winner or at least 2 teams picking up a point each way, Everton playing Leicester. So, we could find ourselves in 16th spot kicking off at Brentford on Sunday. So that is a priority as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we manage this. But in terms of the midfield and in terms of the forward areas, Chris, I think we're stuck. This weekend, definitely. We might get a couple of signings on before the Liverpool game in the Cup. But as far as I'm aware, I think for anyone to play against Brentford, they have to be registered by 12 o'clock tomorrow. I think that looks pretty unlikely. So what we have for Brentford on Sunday is what we have now. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we manage it because Brentford is a tough place to go. And I think we've draw with them the 3 times we've played them since they come up. So we have yet to win there with fully fit teams. So it's going to be difficult and they'll really fancy it. But it's just a big weekend. If we can get through this week, Chris, looking at February now in the calendar, it looks at a much lighter schedule than January was. And it gives us an opportunity to build players back in. And realistically now, your season, regardless of what happens in these cup games, our season won't be over until at least the middle of March now because we've got these Europa League games coming up. So it's a wee bit of pressure off, I think.
Dustin, let's come to you. Let's talk about the match itself. In the first minute, it was a bright start from Spurs. Son having a shot at the goalkeeper. And then after 6 minutes, Tottenham, a good cross into Richarlison. Couldn't quite get there. It was a little bit too high for him. And then after 23 minutes, Heung-min Son crossed for Pedro Porro to head towards goal. Easy for the goalkeeper. Then shortly after, Pedro Porro shot over from range. And then after 33 minutes, great work again from Heung-min Son. Richarlison shot a goal and it was blocked and cleared. Dustin, what did you make of Heung-min Son's performance today? Because it's fair to say he has been criticised quite heavily this season by a lot of Spurs fans.
Yeah, I think that this is one of his better performances. I do think we have to take into consideration who he was up against. We've seen Son put in performances like that, but it was generally against right backs who, he did it against Kieran Trippier, he did it against actually like ex-Spurs players for some reason. He hasn't been able to sustain that across many of the teams in the league. I think a big part of the reason is that teams have analysts that analyze Son and know what his weaknesses are, so they try to make sure that he receives with his back to goal and he has to go back, right? They try not to give him space to run into. Whereas against Elfsborg, I expect that he would, have the confidence to run at his man and generally have the beating of him, which he did multiple times. I can see from my notes that he created chances, maybe about 6 or 7 chances coming down on the left wing. So I think that he had a field day today, but probably needed some rest as well. And getting through that, getting his confidence up means that we might see him in better form when it's in the league again. So much better performance from Son, and I think that there's more to come from him. We just need to give him more rest and rotate him and give him minutes. One thing about Son being on the left was that I felt that Mikey Moore on the right meant that we didn't have a very balanced attack because they're both right-footers, and Moore on the right meant that he was maintaining with Moore and Son was cutting in. So I felt that our chance creation was a bit unbalanced and we didn't have as many opportunities from from a wing to wing kind of attack. So it was interesting to see Mikey Moore switch the flanks a couple of times, but I thought that Moore's generally been played on the left. I think he did quite well on the right this time, but it'll be interesting to see where his role lies and taking minutes off Son so that Son can have a rest and we see more of this form from him.
Dustin, let's stay with you for a second, but just after 36 minutes, Richarlison had a shot over the bar from 20 yards. What have you made of him since he's returned from injury? Because it has been a frustrating time for him, hasn't it? Since joining from Everton, yes, he had a good spell last season, but he spent a lot of time on the sidelines. How confident are you now that he can, stay fit from now until the end of the season, really help the team out and be that real impact player for us that we desperately need?
The thing about Richarlison is that you can never say he doesn't put a shift in. I mean, his last injury was basically doing his hammy in, creating assists. I think that sometimes he beats himself up so much that he tries so hard to make up for his what he perceives to be his lack of performance. And as a striker, that's scoring goals. So I almost feel like he needs to chill out a bit, understand that he, in pressing and doing all the other things that Ange wants him to do, he's still fulfilling what he needs to do and not put so much pressure on himself to score goals, and it will come. I find that he's forcing it a bit too much. And if he just has confidence that he is performing his role in the team, which Solanke does, right? Solanke doesn't score a ton of goals, but he starts the press and everything. And he's confident in his abilities and that the goals will come whenever, so he doesn't snatch at chances. I still feel that Richarlison still snatches at chances because he's aware of how long he spent injured. So for me, I would love to see him get more minutes so that he calms down, gets a goal finally, and then he doesn't become this panicked character that snatches at a chance whenever he gets a whiff at goal.
Matt, let's come to you. After 39 minutes, Heung-min Son with some great work again, set up Mikey Moore, and his shot was blocked. And then, of course, we went in 0-0 at half-time. How are you feeling at that point, Matt, at half-time, 0-0?
That's a good question. I think it was very interesting because you could sense it. I mean, I've been there and so have you enough times. And you're obviously there now. I can see you obviously been there. The sense around the stadium is, oh, here we go again. What's going to happen? By the way, I watched your interview the other day with Expressions, and I thought that was fantastic on the podcast. I meant to say I watched that. I thought that was. I mean, I wanted to give you a hug after that, after I hearing about all the grief you go through. But he did it for me, and I think it takes a couple of death threats and you get an award. I mean, that's all it takes, But fair play, mate. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it was. I think it needed freshening up, which he did straight away. He made changes straight away and brought on Kulusevski, and I think he made the right choice. He freshened it straight up, so he showed intent. I think he's been unfortunate. I mean, I've been reading a lot recently, a lot of rubbish. I mean, I'm a positive guy, as you know, anyway. I just can't. I go back. I mean, I've seen Spurs win 6 trophies. I said this the other day. I was at the '84 final. I was there. I saw the Tony Parks save. I one of the best nights of my life, and that ended up in an alleyway in Richmond with a young lady. But I won't tell you about that. But it was a great night. But that was a brilliant night. So I've seen Spurs win things, and so I've got that in me. I still always think we're going to come through. I remember in the Leicester Cup final when it was 0-0 and then Justin Edinburgh got sent off. I still thought we'd win, and we did. I just sometimes get this feeling with Spurs. And tonight, I didn't feel. I thought, he's going to change us up, and we're going to score. We're going to break them down, and we're going to score. And I didn't think it would be the youngsters that did it, but I mean, it was just great. I just watching that. I mean, I'm not going to get carried away with it because obviously we got 3 of the biggest games coming up now, and I think just that particular moment was quite interesting. I didn't panic. No, I thought we're going to win this, and we did. So great.
Gareth, before I come to you and talk about the 3 changes that Ange Postecoglou made at half-time, let's hear from Mickey van der Ven because, of course, he was back this evening. Great to see him back in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt. This is what he had to say.
I'm joined down at pitchside by Rob Daly, our club commentator, and returning to the side tonight. Welcome back, Mickey van der Ven. How was it?
Yeah, unbelievable to play some minutes again. It was a long time, and yeah, I'm really happy to be back, and I'm really happy with the 3 points either.
Do you know what? There was a moment in the first half, Mickey, where I saw you weirdly smiling. I was like, are you just enjoying being back out there? Are you just getting a buzz from being back out on the pitch?
Yeah. Also, when I walked out of the tunnel, it's just an unbelievable feeling to be back. You're working so hard every day, day in, day out, to come back, and yeah, I was just a smile on my face when I came back out again.
Can you tell fans what it's been like for you? Just give them a little bit of an insight into your recovery and your rehab as well, because there's been a lot of work on your own, hasn't there?
Yeah, everything is individually. So you always go back out and go to the other pitches to work alone and see the guys working on other pitches. So yeah, it's a tough time when you're injured, to be honest. Like, you're always alone, and of course you see the guys, but when you go out, you're not with the guys, so it's always different. So yeah, difficult time, but we came through it, and hopefully I can play some more minutes now.
Mickey, we'll come back to you in a moment, but can we talk about the 3 young players who've won the game tonight? That was amazing. Can you tell us what your view of it was from the subs bench?
Yeah, unbelievable feeling for the guys, of course. They work day in, day out. Every training session they give 100%, and now 3 of them get a chance. Mikey played more minutes, of course. Dane came back, but Demola made his debut. Yeah, what I say, they work every day. They work so hard. They give 100%. So I think everybody is really happy for these 3 guys to make their goal.
Can you tell us about your first 45 minutes back? How did the pace of the game feel? Did it feel familiar, comfortable? How does the injury feel, etc., etc.?
Yeah, the difference in speed, of course, is quite big with the Premier League, to be honest. But because you saw they sitting back with 11 guys around the box, so we boxed them in, and most of the time they didn't came out, so that was also really good from us. And yeah, of course, we had a lot of the ball. Normally we have the ball also in Premier League games, but yeah, the intensity is higher, everything is higher. Now you see the guys really just with 11 guys around the box, and every ball they got, they kick long.
I suppose the question that fans will want us to ask tonight is, how are you after that? How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel good.
There's like, you come through it absolutely fine?
Yeah, I feel good. So, yeah.
I love it.
Fine.
Roll on the weekend?
Roll on the weekend.
Gareth,
No.
It is great having him back. I'll tell you what, I was going to say, I don't think they even need to ask him a question because the smile on the face just said it all, didn't it?
He's a smiler, isn't he? He's always been a smiler, and he almost has that like sort of twinkle in his eye when he talks about the club, which is really positive to see. He's very happy here, it seems, and he just looks someone like he's really enjoying his football and he loves it here. And you know, he always does seem so happy. So brilliant player for us. Just really hope now he can stay fit. It's up to the club. It's up to Ange, the medical staff, and Mickey to manage this situation now. You know, as a suicide to play him 3 times this week. I don't know. I mean, what do we do on Sunday? We Mickey, we play him for 60, 70 minutes, then bring him off, even if it's a tight game. Because whatever happens on Sunday, I don't think we're going to blow Brentford away or them blow us away. I think it's going to be a very tight game. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it's, 0-0 or 1-1 with 20 minutes to go. Does he bring Mickey off because of Anfield on Thursday, where you'd expect we're going to need him for the full 90 minutes, possibly even extra time. So it's a really, really difficult one they manage, but it's exciting despite the season being strange. There has been some highs this season. That was one tonight. You think about the Man City game away, Man City in the cup, United in the cup, United away, Southampton away. There has been some really good positive highs from this disappointing season. There's obviously been some real lows, and that's kind of clouded everything with the injuries as well. But it's still an exciting week, Chris. There's a lot of clubs would bite your hand off for this situation that we have this week. We're going to Anfield, only needing a draw, and I know that sounds like it's going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult. Only. No, that's up. But it would be worse if we had to go there and win. The fact that we can draw the game gives us a bit of a squeak. I think if we had to go there and win, we'd have absolutely no chance at all. I think anything can happen. If we can get the first goal, puts a bit of pressure on Liverpool, they respond. So it's a massive week. Personally, I mean, if it meant losing to Brentford and we were sitting here next week in the final and in the next round of the FA Cup, I'd probably take my chances, because I really don't think we're going to get relegated or anything like that. So it's a big week. Just hopefully it can be a positive one, because I really don't want to be sitting here next week with really only that Europa League they fall back on. So brilliant to have Mickey back. We'll see what happens with Romero. I have a feeling the club will gamble on him. I think Ange will say, look, we need to take an opportunity with Romero and Van de Ven going to Anfield, because I think especially if Draguson's out now as well, that look like one of those innocuous injuries where it could be like a ligament damage, and it could be like a Solanke type injury where it could be out for 6 or 7 weeks. So yeah, we're really short on numbers. But I don't know. I mean, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, if he goes in and plays with, say, Gray and Davis on Sunday and we get beat badly, it puts a lot of pressure on Thursday against Liverpool. If he goes in with Romero and Van de Ven and one of them gets injured, he'll be absolutely hammered. Sometimes managers have impossible situations, and whatever happens, they're always going to be judged on the result that day or the result of something that happens. So as much as I've been critical of Ange over this run of games, I still think he deserves his chance this week. They try and put things right. And we'll agree. We'll see what happens. But it's just a massive, massive week, Chris. Excited, but really nervous as well at the same time.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that a little later. Dustin, let's come to you. When I read the match facts and stats out here, you saw that Elfsborg didn't actually do a great deal in the final third. 0 shots on target this evening. And of course, at half-time, Ange Postecoglou made a treble change. Kulusevski, Basuma, Dragushin all coming on. Son, Bentancur, Van de Ven going off. What did you make of Van de Ven coming back today and going into that game? I know, of course, we'll preview the Brentford game shortly, but how much time would you give Van de Ven? Would you start him in that match on Sunday?
I think you definitely want to start him on Sunday, primarily because starting is better than coming on as a substitute, because you're more warmed up. The other part is that you want him to get more minutes in his legs in a more competitive match, because for all accounts, this game the quality of the opposition was not particularly high. And you don't want his first competitive game back in the league to be against Liverpool, against those wingers. So you definitely want him to get at least, I would say, 50 to 60 minutes in his legs against Brentford, and hopefully the game is done and dusted by then. I think that he will come off regardless of game state, just because we don't want to re-injure him. We we can't do without him for months again. So most likely what we will end up doing is playing him for the first half and taking him off somewhere during the second half. A couple of observations about Van de Ven's presence in this game, and we have to account for the opposition, but I know in previous games I talked about how our build-up play is so much higher when we have Romero and Van de Ven, just because they're so comfortable on the ball, and we end up building up play with our centre backs, close to the centre circle, and that means that we only have to attack half, maybe 60% of the pitch. That's where we have players to attack the opposition. Whereas with when we have Dragusin or we have other centre backs playing, they're not as comfortable on the ball. We sometimes have 2/3 of the pitch that we need to advance the ball through. So having Van de Ven back, even without Romero, but having Archie Gray with him, who's also a good ball player, it meant that our build-up play was starting much higher. We had a lot more attacks that were going faster just because Van de Ven is comfortable passing the ball at a much higher speed than Dragusin is. The observation I had was that there were a lot of passes down the wing, and the passes were done perfectly so that the winger could trap the ball, instantly do a one-touch pass. So it's not just the amount of pitch that he compresses, but it's the quality of ball that he gives the wingers so that they can instantly start attacking, and there's less time they need to control the ball. All of these things just matter. So I think that when we have Van de Ven and Romero back, it's not just we defend better, but we also attack a lot better.
Dustin, let's stay with you for a second, because after 49 minutes, Ben Davies had a shot from around 20 yards, easy for the goalkeeper. But 4 minutes later, it's probably Elfsborg's only chance that they had that went over the bar. What do you make of the opposition this evening?
I don't want to underestimate the opposition, but they clearly did not come to attack very much. They had very few touches of the in the box. They did not possess the ball much, and when they did, they tried to break down the wing. But even breaking down the wing, a lot of their attacks went nowhere. So, as much as we enjoyed today's game, it was an attritional game. They were always going to park at the bus, and I think that it was good that teams that park the bus against us have been our weakness in the league. So it's good to see that we can break this team down, even if they're not Premier League level. At least we are getting good practice at breaking teams down that have no interest in attacking and to go and put 11 men behind the ball. Those are the games that we've struggled with, and I think that the more that we build up the muscle memory of breaking these teams down that lie in a deep or mid block, the better we are equipped to pick up more points in the league so that we stave off relegation.
We're going to try and keep this podcast positive, not talk about relegation or losing any matches this evening. Matt, let's come to you. After 58 minutes, Pedro Porro with a cross, Bergvall headed towards goal, goalkeeper saved. What have you made of Lucas Bergvall so far this season? Because when I talk about taking opportunities, he's probably had a lot more opportunities than he would have thought this season in his first year at Tottenham. But what have you made of him?
Where's that cat? I can hear a cat. Someone got a cat. Where's that cat?
It's not in my car.
I can hear a cat. I've been to Singapore, by the way. That's the best airport I've ever been to in my life. The airport in Singapore. You can go to a gym. You can have a swim. Honestly, if you ever go to Australia, anyone stop off at Singapore. Best airport ever. Brilliant. Just want to say that. Oh, sorry. Back to Bergvall. Yeah, he's great. I've been watching a lot of those. Those YouTube clips of a player before we sign them. Not like those interviews where you heard Carlos kick a ball. I actually looked at him. I thought he looks like a good player. But he's taking his chance. And he's not scared, is he? He puts it about as well. He gets booked. He's not like the typical youngster. I think he's really good. I mean, he's really pissed off the Liverpool. I don't think they should start him at Anfield. The first time I went to Anfield, I was 14 years old, and Liverpool stuffed us 7-0. And that was my first ever time I went to Anfield. But when that place heaved, that's the only ground in the whole of Europe where they can suck the ball into the net from the stands. So I don't think we should play Bergvall in that game to start with, because if we play him, they'll be targeting him, and the crowd will be on his case, and he'll get booked, and I think there'll be a problem. I think I'd be better off 0-0 with about sort of 89 minutes. Bring him on and let him score the winner. I think that'd be really good. But I'm a massive fan of Bergvall. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's only going to get better and better. And he's the future.
Matt, in the 66th minute, Dane Scarlett came on. Dragushin, of course, went off, went straight down the tunnel. A disappointing night for Dragushin, and as Gareth said, hopefully he's not out injured for that long. And by the way, Captain Heung-min Son has just said, what an incredible special evening for our academy and the club. So much hard work from so many people coming together. Nothing but proud. Dane Scarlett's had a tough time, hasn't he? I'm so glad to see him, come off the bench this evening, get some game time, and more importantly, score for Spurs, putting us 1-0 up. What an incredible goal that he scored. And, it's fantastic to see because he's had a tough spell. He's had a couple of loans out. It's been tough for him.
Yeah, he has. But I know Harry Kane's spoken to him about this. I was reading about this and said to him that, you take your chances, you go out on loan, learn from the experiences you have, which Harry Kane did. He went to Leicester and Norwich and went out and learned what he was doing. But he probably didn't expect the call back so quickly. But obviously, times need. He comes in, but he just took his goal beautifully, like a natural sort of centre forward. I think one of you said earlier on about that. I think he's got that about him, and I just think we've been lacking, certainly recently, a sort of centre forward. Well, since Kane went, really, who actually, I mean, they've all got their qualities. I think that Solanke's a great player, and a great hold-up player, but just somebody who knows where the goal is. I think we've always had that with Defoe, with Lineker, a poacher, someone in the box who wants to know where the goal is, and I just think he showed that tonight. He's looking to score, and I just think it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but just have someone who knows where the goal is. I just think having a forward up front who's not just there to hold the ball up or lay it off or to cause problems like Richarlison, someone who just wants to score, someone who's a little bit greedy, who puts the ball in the back of the net, which I think is kind of, what the game's about. So, yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. And hopefully it just gives you more confidence to keep doing it.
It's incredible, though, Matt, isn't it, that he couldn't get much game time for Oxford, but yet he's come in, scored in the Europa League for Spurs.
What do they know up there? But yeah, no, but it is exactly that. But I just think that's the way the world is. I mean, all these guys are talented. All these guys dream of doing this. I mean, those three lads, probably all of them, when they were youngsters, were dreaming of a moment like this. And all three of them getting it on the same night. I mean, what an incredible... I mean, can you imagine where they are now? What they're doing, where they're all sitting amongst each other and they're going home to their parents and their families and saying, I just think it was just special. It's a special thing, which was nice to hear you said about Son saying that, because I think that will go through the whole club. And I think everyone will say, look, it breeds confidence and it gives people that kind of, the youth is here. We've got something behind us. And also to some of the other players, hang on, we've got some people, that are itching for our place, competition for places. That's surely what it's about.
And I think one thing to add about that was that, when Kane went out on all those loans, he wasn't pulling up trees either. I mean, I remember the shot of both him and Vardy on the bench for Leicester, right? So I think that Dane has gone on enough loans. I think Kane went on loan 4 times before he came back and started really fighting first place. So I think that Dane Scarlett has probably, been around the block long enough and actually built up his body and built up enough experience to actually compete for his place now.
Mm-hmm. Gareth, let's come to you. After 80 minutes, Mikey Moore to Bergvall, who missed, and then a minute later, Ajayi making his debut, Richarlison coming off. What do you make of Ajayi's goal for Tottenham, making it 2-0?
He took it like a seasoned pro, doesn't he? I mean, he plays the pass inside, Scarlett lays it off with perfect with a pass, and then the finish is just outstanding, really. I mean, if Messi had done that, you'd have been going topical of Lionel Messi, and I'm not comparing him to Lionel Messi, but it's the type of goal he used to score just from the edge of the box and whop it under the reverse corner. Because obviously, Ajayi being left-footed, most of them go for the opposite side of the corner. So he's reversed it back on the side he was on. So it was a really, really top finish. And like you freeze it there, Chris. There wasn't much to aim at. He's literally postage stamped it under the corner.
Yeah.
And you look where the keeper is as well. There, he's more towards that side. It was just right on the corner. It was. I mean, he couldn't have had it any better. And I have to say, when he was moving up to hit it, you kind of fancied him because of the way he was moving, and he almost had that belief and confidence that he could do it. So fantastic moment for him, fantastic moment for the academy, and I'm sure the academy manager tonight will be maybe getting on for a pay rise tomorrow with all these players scoring because they definitely had no doubt changed the game. I think as well, Chris, and this is something that I don't think a lot of people, it wouldn't go unnoticed, but as well as the youngsters coming on, and we talked about the changes, Kulusevski going back into the midfield as well just gives us so much more as a team. I think our best performances this season have been when Kulusevski's been in midfield. I think he's wasted out on that right side. He's very predictable on that right side. He's not one for using his right foot that often, so he's always going to come inside into the traffic. Whereas I think when he's on that midfield role, he's got more space. He can go both ways, and he's very, very good at using his body. And when he's maybe got two players around him, whereas on that right-hand side, he's kind of only really got the fullback, and the fullback shows him inside anyway, because he's not really going to burst past too many people. He's not lightning quick. We've seen, I think there was a break towards the end of the game where he was 1v1 and he tried to kick it past the defender and he couldn't get past him because he's not really got that bluster and piss. He's quite quick moving with the ball, but in actual sprint speed, he's not that type of player. So I think Kulusevski in midfield is something that's got to happen moving forward. Regardless of injuries, we were speaking a bit about Liverpool there. Personally against Liverpool, I think we have to pack in midfield with physicality and experience. And I think with what we have available, you throw Basuma, Bentancur, and Kulusevski in there, an experienced midfield three that can cope with Anfield and have had experience at Anfield, because Liverpool's midfield this season has been outstanding. They dominate most teams they play, even in the teams that they near the top of the table. So I think it's really important in that game, especially, that we go with that, and we have to trust. If we have to trust Mikey Moore in a big game like that, then we go that way, because I think having Kulusevski in midfield just gives us so much more ability and so much more power and physicality. And look, you can talk all you want about talent and talk about what injuries we have. You have to, the first thing you do when you go to Anfield is you have to compete, and you have to be strong physically, and then the football takes over. I always think to get a result at Anfield, you need to get through the first 15 or 20 minutes unscathed. If you can see it after 5 or 6 minutes there, that crowd's going to be bouncing, and it's hard to see how we will be able to cope with that. So I think that's the way to go against Anfield, against Liverpool at Anfield, having him on there. But again, just going back to the game, as much as the young players were excellent, that really had an impact tonight on the game. Kulusevski going back inside.
Dustin, let's talk a little bit about Dejan Kulusevski, because of course he did the pre-match press conference and he spoke about the leadership, and he just seems like a completely different guy on the pitch, off the pitch this season. What have you made of him? Because I've got to say, I think he's probably been our most outstanding player, made a real impact this season, and you can see that real leadership in him, can't you?
I think he's our future captain. So I think the thing about Kulusevski was that he, as Gareth said, he is kind of wasted on the right, because he doesn't have a good enough right foot to put in good crosses. He doesn't have the speed to beat his man necessarily. So, and he's not like Robin, where he's cutting in, but he's going to score anyway. He did that in his first season, but he hasn't really been curling those balls into the top corner. So the way that he influences the game is he has kind of the strength that Dembele used to have in terms of holding players off the ball. So I feel like that's where he can be more influential. But in terms of the leadership that he's shown, I thought that the press conference was very interesting, because he was talking about he's always been a very upfront player. He doesn't give you PR nonsense or bullshit. He tells you as it is. And that's one way to get a good temperature of what the dressing room was feeling. So whatever we can say about the performances not being good, if Kulusevski says that everyone's still playing for the manager, then I believe him, because he'll be the first to say there's something wrong. So from that perspective, I think that his position should be down the center for sure. I think he should be a future captain. And for now, what I can see his influence in is also bringing Bergvall in, and being his fellow countryman there, giving him the experience and giving him the confidence to play. And in Bergvall and Kulusevski, I see a relationship building there that they can develop on the national team as well, where they would have develop the chemistry in midfield with both of them being creative players that actually help with line breaking, with one-touch passes. So that is a partnership that I think we can build the team around.
Dustin, let's also talk to you about the third goal. Mikey Moore, a bit of magic from Mikey Moore, of course assisted by Bergvall. But like Gareth said earlier, I think every time Mikey Moore gets the ball now, people just expect this magic.
Yeah, and the thing about Mikey Moore is that he keeps trying it, and he doesn't have any fear of failure, or if the ball gets stolen from him, if it goes out of play, he doesn't have the lack of confidence some youngsters have when they try something outrageous and it doesn't work. He just keeps trying because he just has that self-belief. So some commentators were saying, oh, how Mikey Moore have been feeling about, these two other youngsters coming in and scoring. He's probably like, great that they've scored, because I'm gonna contribute as well. And when he went down doing that solo run, beating all the Elfsborg players, it was him looking at the opportunity, going, there's a ton of space here, because when he ran down, there were only two defenders that he had to beat, and their spirit was broken already. So great goal, well taken. And I think that he moves from strength to strength from here, because he's had limited opportunities. He had the unfortunate virus that actually broke the momentum of the minutes that he was getting. And there's no better time to break into the squad now when your coach needs you to perform, and the first team players that would normally be there, like Odebear, are all out anyway.
Dustin, who was your man of the match this evening?
It's pretty difficult, because who actually played the entire game? I feel that it's hard because a lot of the players that played well didn't last the entire game. Some played quite well in the first half. Unfortunate that he didn't actually make a goal contribution. Archie Gray played pretty well as well. I would say probably Archie Gray. It's just stunning that a player his age has played out of position so many times, and he's slotted into all these positions that you normally require quite a lot of maturity to play well, and he's just done all of it. Wasn't a center back, now plays center back full time, and doesn't look out of place. So maybe it's a bit under the radar, but like, I feel that as a whole, the fact that he's been playing center back for as long as he has, and we've had more problems with Dragoson's performances than we've had with Archie Gray's, and Dragoson's a full-time centre back, so I think that says everything about his quality.
Yeah,
I would go with Brandon Austin for man of the match, because I always say when somebody makes it look easy, they're a class above. Brandon Austin made it look easy tonight.
He's done well, hasn't he, Gareth? He's waited all this time for a debut, and then the games that he's played, he's done fairly well, hasn't he?
Oh, he done well. I nothing to do. I think Dustin summed it up well. He'd have to go man of the match. If you were picking a player in the first half, it would have been Son, because he was the only one that really looked like he could do something. He did right back on toast. Just didn't really happen for him in terms of his final end product. Second half, you'd have to go to probably Dan Scarlett for his impact. I think, as Dustin says, Archie Gray was solid, but I don't think there was any outstanding performers. But I just think if you were going on moments, probably say Scarlett goal and assist, and he definitely did have a massive impact in the game.
Matt, who would you give man of the match to?
Henry White. I'm just wondering what he's doing right now. He's always screaming when I turn on. He's always screaming on his YouTube channel about what's going on. No, I thought the best player tonight, and I've said it the last time I came on here, was Archie Gray. I just think the guy is just getting better and better. We've got an absolute diamond there, and I just think I'm just interested actually, because I know he's not his natural position, but I kind of like it. I think Romero's going to move on this summer. I think he's going to move on, and I think if Archie Gray can partner with Van der Ven, we've got a hell of a defensive partnership there. I mean, seriously, it wasn't probably what he started out to be, but he's just picked the game up so well. He's learning all the time, and I think him and Van der Ven at the back, Yeah. Archie Grace was my man of the match. Well said, Dustin. Absolutely.
And I can't wait to see them and Kinski play together, because when Kinski has that range of passing and the weight of passing, which is, I mean, I love Vicario, but Kinski's weight of passing and his ability to dink it over defenders, it just gives us so much more options in build-up play. So once we have our our good ball playing centre backs back and a combination with Kinski, I think that there's going to be a big sea change in how we build up play.
Before we move on to talk about the Brentford game, I just want to get all of your opinions on how far you think Spurs can actually go in this competition in the Europa League. Dustin, let's start with you.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How far you think Spurs can actually go in this competition in the Europa League?
We're winning it. It's our route to the Champions League. I mean, okay, I'm being a bit facetious, but like, you know how we've had all these hypothetical like scenarios in the past where we're like, what if we just bin off the league and just play for the cups, right? I think we're literally in this scenario now. Just don't get relegated. We're still in 3 cups. What else is there to play for? Like, does 12 make a difference from 13th or 15th? Get 43 points, 44 points. As long as we don't get relegated, I don't think it makes that big a difference. But if you're in the cups, and literally we're in a cup that if we win it gets us into the Champions League, I don't care about 4th. Win the Europa League. Get us a title. Get all of that, that weight off our back about not winning anything. Win a pot and get into the big one that way.
So you don't care that Ange Postecoglou has had all of this criticism about these defeats in league competition, Dustin? You're just all about go and win a trophy.
Look, I mean, I'm never going to say that we should lose league games, but I mean, we've always had these hypothetical scenarios where, Spurs fans debate about, we should just focus on the cups and get a pot. I don't care about Champions League. We're in that scenario now where even if you cared about getting into the top 4 spots, it's not realistic anymore. So now that we're legitimately out of it, this is actually a chance to go all out in the cups and actually win something. And we'll find out if we actually are able to do it. We were the bookies' favorites for the league, for Europa League. We've had terrible injuries. If we have all these players coming back and we think that they'll make us competitive for the Premier League, if we're competitive for the Premier League, we should be winning the Europa League. That's just the reality. The other English team that's in the Europa League is Man United, and we've beaten them. We've had the beating of them for the last few times we've met them. Lazio, I think we can beat. Who's the other team that's above us in the table? Atletico. I don't see any teams there that on our day we can't beat. Although, when we're not having a good day, we lose to Ipswich. So it depends on which Spurs shows up. But we're a cup team, right?
Hopefully this season, yes. Matt, how far are we going in this competition in the Europa League?
Oh, what a question! Well, since the last time I was there when we won it, I don't know. It's just you just don't know, do you? We follow this team. We put ourselves through this pain. We get all excited when we have a good performance against a team like this and think, here we go. We're going to go on a cup run. Here we go. We're in 3 cups. The last time, I think, in February, we're going to go into February, we were in 3 cups was possibly 1982, I think, when we were going to the 3 cups. I remember, and we lost in the Milk Cup final it was the Milk Cup final to Liverpool. We won the FA Cup and we came 3rd. No, we were 3rd in the league. That was it. That's what happened. I seem to remember that year we were doing really, really well. I just think we got to win something this year. I just think we got to win it. One of the 3 cups we will win. That's what I'll say. I'm not going to say it'll be the UEFA Cup, the FA Cup, the league. We will win a trophy this season. I promise you that. And then I'll come up Skywalk with you and Expressions, and I'll come up with you and we'll do the walk together. That's what will happen. All right, that's my prediction.
Wow. I tell you, when we record this podcast, like you record a podcast like Sunday's one, losing against Leicester, and then we win 3-0 this evening, the Academy get us out of trouble. Yeah. And then you get Dustin saying we win the Europa League. I never know what to feel or think anymore, because 1 minute we're up, 1 minute we're down. You never know what's coming next. Of course, we play Brentford next. We'll talk about that in a second. Gareth, how far are we going to go in the Europa League this season?
Look, I think Dustin makes an interesting point about. I honestly think 2 more wins and we'd be safe from relegation because that takes us 30 points. Southampton are gone. There's no way back for them. I can't see Ipswich or Leicester winning 4 or 5 games. I really can't. I think 3 wins guarantees you. I mean, 33 points. I think that'll be it. I mean, you know, Dustin talked about 40 or 42, 43. I think 30 to 33 will probably be enough. And look, that's embarrassing even having to say that. But I think if we come through Liverpool and get past Villa, I think if we can scrape a few wins in February in the league, or maybe even one in March before the Europa League starts, I think then it becomes a real balancing act where we're not going to probably finish in the top 10, maybe 10th if we talk it seriously and have done a great run. But I think if you're sitting there in March and you're sitting 12th or 13th in the league and you're, 10 or 11 points clear of the drop zone, and you've got Europa League games coming up, FA Cup games coming up, they have to take priority at that stage because realistically, that's your ways into Europe. If we win the League Cup, it guarantees the Conference League. We don't really want that Conference League, to be honest, but if we take it because we're on the League Cup, then it's a bit easier to stomach being on it. Europa League's away into the FA Cup if you want, or the FA Cup's away into the Europa League if you won that. And of course, winning the Europa League gets you into the Champions League. So all the incentives on top of winning the Cups for European football next season is all going to be centred around them Cups because we're far too far behind now in the league. They make up that kind of points tally. So I think it'll be really interesting come March if we've got the final coming up. We're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and then we've got that last 16 tie. From what I believe, Chris, it's Galatasaray, AZ Alkmaar, FC Midtjylland, and Real Sociedad are the 4 possible opponents.
Yep.
And we've already had experiences against Galatasaray and AZ Alkmaar. I mean, AZ Alkmaar were dreadful, and I think FC Midtjylland will be light work, but I do expect it to be one of the other 2, either Sociedad or Galatasaray. I think the way it's going to be weighted is Galatasaray and Real Sociedad play one of the other 2, so I would expect them 2 to win their playoffs. So Galatasaray and Real Sociedad will play Spurs and Man United. So we'll get one and United will get the other. And to be honest, Chris, I think Galatasaray will be a nightmare draw because away in Turkey, English teams do not do well. It's a proven fact. Not just us. We went there and lost 3-2 with 10 men. No, they're no great shakes, but I wouldn't fancy a trip to Galatasaray in the last 16. If we have to meet them in the quarters of the semis, then, I'll take it on the chin. So if you offered me Real Sociedad now, Chris, I'd probably take it and take our chances against them. We're home second. We'll be away first. If we can go out there, maybe keep it tight. Well, we don't do tight games the way, but even come back with a draw and then beat them at home in the second leg. If you're in the quarterfinal, then Chris, anything's possible. I think it's quite interesting the way it's worked out that we cannot play Man United to the final. I think that's just written in the stars now. There's an opportunity that could be an all-English final, and let's be honest, if we're in the final, I hope Man United are in the final. I hope they find a way to the final because I'd be very confident of beating them in the final. Now I know they've had a bit of form in Ruben Amram. They don't score a lot of goals, which means you're always going to be in a game against Man United. Under Amram, they've really struggled to score goals. They've been a lot more defensively sound. But I think if we have a fully fit team near the end of the season, and we had a chance to play Man United in the final, this current Man United team would absolutely bite your hand off for it. And, Liverpool away is going to be tough in the Cup. But again, somebody had says at the start of the season, you could be playing Newcastle in the final of the League Cup. We'd have better hands off for an opportunity like that because we've always ended up playing the league winners. As far as I can remember, under Pochettino, we always seemed to play the team that was first in the league. In these big cup finals, or a Liverpool team in the Champions League final were just as good as Man City and must out be a point. So we've always had that underdog tie in a final. Whereas I think this Newcastle final will be very 50-50. I think a lot of people will be split on who they fancy. In terms of your objective pundits that have no Spurs or Newcastle connection. I think you would have some say a fancy Spurs and some say a fancy Newcastle, and it's a real 50-50. Whereas before the Champions League final, I think everybody fancied Liverpool. Before the last couple of League Cup finals, Chelsea's, Mourinho, everyone would have fancied them. And Man City in the COVID final, everybody would have fancied Man City. So I think these opportunities this year are a lot more realistic. If we get to these finals, we've got a great opportunity of possibly winning trophies. So depending on the draw, Chris, I think Galatasaray will be a real 50-50 tie because I can't see us winning out there. I think that'll be a real struggle just based on how English teams perform out there. I think we would have a lot to do in the home leg. I think we could find ourselves maybe a goal behind, and then you just don't know how that could go. I think Real Sociedad, I would take that now, and it's fancy to get past them over 2 games, and I'm judging this based on, hopefully we'll have a near fully fit squad come March, and we'll have no more injuries, and hopefully. Sometimes, Chris, in these crazy seasons, things can fall for you. You think about Liverpool in 2005, Istanbul had a terrible league season. I think they finished 5th or 6th in the league. Chelsea, under Di Matteo, finished 6th in the league, went on, they won the Champions League. Sometimes these things can happen, and arse about fist, as they say. You can have a real poor league season and almost rescue it with cup football, and we've seen that with Man United over the last couple of years with Ten Hag. He won 2 trophies without really being a force in the league. So maybe it could be that type of season for us, and we do something special. But
do you said that about Galatasaray? You said about going at that tie, and I've been out there, and it's a really
it's that welcome to hell, isn't it? Welcome to hell.
Yeah, they do nice kebabs, but this week I had a German doner kebab. They are the best kebabs I've ever had in my life. I have to say, if you haven't got a GDK, go on. I'm telling everyone out there, have a GDK. It is the best.
Do you know what, Matt? See, obviously we can sit now and watch. But I mean, if Galatasaray were to go out in the next round of the playoff, I think we'd all be sitting there going, right, we'll take any of our 3 teams now. Take our chances over the 2 games, because I know Sociedad are a good team, but they're very much them Spanish teams, like they get on the ball and play open attack and football. I think that'll suit us. Whereas I think Galatasaray will play in the counter attack, big, physical, strong, intimidating atmosphere. It would just be a real tie I want to avoid. Not to say it'll go on with any fear, but just be a really difficult tie. So, look, let's hope that Sociedad, AZ Alkmaar, or FC Midtjylland, we beat them, and then we can start looking at the quarterfinal and beyond. I think it could potentially be a difficult semi-final, possibly Lazio or Atletico Bilbao. But again, I think it's really refreshing, Chris, that we can't play Bilbao in the final. Nobody would want to play Bilbao in the final, I think. So I think that will be I think we meet Bilbao in the semi-final if we meet them. So we can play them in their home ground, because obviously that's where the final is, in Bilbao.
Oh. I love the confidence. Dustin thinks we're going all the way and winning it. Gareth's talking about semi-finals. Yeah, I think if we did play Galatasaray, it's certainly a difficult game, especially that away leg, because of course we've gone there this season and it was difficult and it was very hostile. Dustin, I'm going to start with you talking about the Brentford game. Lastly, we're going to talk about the Brentford game, the difficult week coming up, and let's get your thoughts on the transfer window so far, of what we've done and what we haven't done so far. Dustin, start with you talking about the Brentford game. Now, the form guide in the Premier League, and you can see here, 1 win in our last 10 Premier League games, 1 draw, 8 defeats, only 4 points out of our last 10 games. Southampton are the only team that have a worse record, 1 point out of their last 10 games. Now, Brentford are currently 11th in the Premier League table, 31 points from 23 games. Spurs are down in 15th, 24 points from 23 games. Now, Brentford's results have been up and down recently at the turn of the year. 3-1 home defeat against Arsenal. Then they beat Southampton 5-0 away, as we did a couple of weeks ago. Then they lost 1-0 at home to Plymouth in the FA Cup. Drew 2-2 at home against Manchester City in the Premier League. Lost 2-0 at home against Liverpool. And most recently, beating Crystal Palace 2-1 away. What have you made of Brentford so far this season, Dustin? And what sort of game are you expecting?
For Brentford, I feel that their strength is really in the way Thomas Frank adapts to the team that he plays against. So I feel that that's part of the reason that we've had struggles against Brentford somewhat, because I think the reason that we've had struggles, and the reason Ange had 10 really good first 10 games were amazing, and then because the Premier League has the best coaches, all the teams have the most money. You've had all these analysts look at how Ange plays, and they've all come up with solutions for how to beat the system. So we've had the 10 good games, and then every time we meet a team again, either their coach or their analysts have come up with a way of beating part of our system. I think that Brentford and Thomas Frank probably have a specific way to beat us. I think that what's interesting now is that because we don't actually have a lot of our first team available, and we'll probably be playing a lot of kids that they haven't seen how they play, a lot of what Brentford would have done to beat our first team may not apply because they haven't had enough data on our second string, third string players that are in the team now. So they may know how to play against Van de Ven and Romero, but they don't know how Archie Gray and maybe even Jet Spence, who might be filling in the centre back, will play. So I think it's a bit of a toss up. If it's at home, we're going to. I think a big part of it really is what the fans can do. The fans can put on pressure when we boo at halftime, when we groan. I mean, I went to one of the two times I've been to the stadium. Once was a ball draw against West Brom. I think it was Van der Vaart's last game. And what struck me about that was, I was going hoping for good atmosphere, but what I noticed was like misplaced passes would get groans. And I'm not saying that you can't express how you feel, but when the team has problems, hearing audibly the fans' disappointment in the way that you're playing when you're already, playing through injury, overworked, not had any breaks, I don't think it helps. I know that the fans express disappointment because the play has been disappointing, the results have been disappointing, but it's an opportunity for us to pull together and be the 12th man and to inspire them to play above themselves such that we can get through the difficult period and we can all be together in relishing better results and better play.
Matt, how are you feeling ahead of this Brentford game on Sunday? Because it's fair to say we need points in the Premier League right now.
Right, well, I grew up, I went to school in Brentford. I used to go in the old ground and in fact, I saw Brentford play before I saw Spurs play. The first two teams I used to go and watch were Bournemouth and Brentford. And Bournemouth, because I used to go summer holidays down in Bournemouth, and Brentford. They both used to be in the 4th division. And I never thought I'd ever see them in the top tier of what was the 1st division then, but now the Premier. So I've got a soft spot for Brentford, but I just think the way they play, I think Brian Mbeumo is a fantastic player. I think he's a really deadly player. I like the way he plays. They've got all the way the core through from Rico Henry, Jensen. They've got a great core. The manager believes in the team and the structure he has. It's an incredibly difficult place to go and play because they all believe in what they're doing. And I think in previous visits we've gone there with a kind of sitting off them, and they attack. They attack in numbers. They all know what they're doing. But again, as I said, with Spurs tonight, I just think if they go there with the attitude of like we're going to win this game, the confidence of what's happened tonight, and going with an attitude, then we can attack them, and which is what we've got to do. And I just think, it's a case of simply go out there with the belief that you can win, go out and win the game, get the confidence going back in the team from what we've done tonight, and let it go through. Obviously, we've got eyes on Villa and we've got eyes on Liverpool on Thursday, but let's just forget about that. Let's go in there on. When is the game? Is it Sunday?
Yeah. Sunday, 2 p.m.
I've got the weekend off. I'm not gigging this weekend. I think I might call in a few favours. I think I might wander down there on Sunday and go and watch it. But it's a tough place to go. But I think, I'm confident. I think they'll go in there, with the confidence of this game and win. There you go. I've said it.
When we look at this week, Matt, playing in the Premier League away at Brentford on Sunday, and then the next day is transfer deadline day. And then, of course, on Thursday, we play that Liverpool game in the Carabao Cup second leg semi-final. And on Sunday, we play in the FA Cup. It is a huge week for Spurs in so many ways. What sort of week are you expecting? Do you think by next Sunday you have a big smile on your face, or do you think you're going to be disappointed?
I'll always have a smile on my face. I've seen enough of this. I lived in the Chelsea training ground. I've had to put through the whole 90s where we couldn't beat the team that I hate the most, which is Chelsea. All the Spurs fans say, I hate Chelsea. I hate them with a passion. All my family are Chelsea fans.
We all do.
I know. And I'm sorry for me living in South West London. Sorry, they're the team that I don't care. I just just want them to lose. So at the moment, I'm smiling because, quite frankly, I just think anything that gets us up, gets us in a positive mood going into this week, we've got to go with it. We've got to believe. Well, what's the point? What's the point of getting up if you don't believe? I go on stage. I'll sing in a pub band. I play every week. I go on a big festivals. I walk on a big stage, thousands of people. I'm going to own this. I walk on. I go, look, we're just a fucking pub band. I go on and we take it. We own the audience. That's what Spurs have got to do. They've got to go on with that attitude and say, look, I don't care where we play, Anfield, Villa Park, smash them out of the ball ground, and that's the way we got to do it. And that's my feeling on it. And I'll be smiling next Sunday evening, promise.
I'll tell you what, Matt, I've spoken about this a number of times on the podcast. I wish we had that attitude when we go to the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, because we don't often get results at these three grounds, which is really, really frustrating. But it's a big.
And Chris, I actually want to bring you up on that, right? Because a lot of people talk about the Pochettino era, but you won nothing. But that era was an era when we went to those grounds and we didn't fear anything. We're going to get a result this ground.
Yeah,
we don't care.
Yeah.
Right. So for all we talk about, and for what Pochettino's done since then, joining Chelsea and everything, but what we miss most about the era was that teams feared us, and that we went wherever we went, we went knowing that even if we lost, it was going to be a brave performance. We'll put everything into it.
Yeah. Gareth,
no fear. That's it. No fear.
Absolutely, Gareth. What are you thinking about Sunday's game?
Look, it's going to be a tough game. Brentford don't get rolled over at home too often, and when they do lose, it's tight games. So I don't see a situation where we go here and beat them 5-1 or 5-2 or 4-4. I don't think it'll be that type of game. I think it'll be very, very tight, and vice versa. When Brentford tend to win, it tends to be tight games as well. So they're a type of team that they win games by the odd goal or lose games by the odd goal or draw. So I think it'll be very much that type of game. Look, I think a draw now would be a decent result. It's not what we want, but I think a draw wouldn't be a bad result at Brentford. So if you offered me that now, I'd probably put the point in my pocket and say, let's think about Liverpool. But I do think it'll be quite tight. I think the team selection is going to be very interesting. But just to bring a bit of balance on, because I know Matt there was pretty upbeat. I think what happens in the next 3 days is going to set the tone for Liverpool in terms of we're on a bit of a high tonight with the youngsters. That only lasts until Sunday, really, because there's also the transfer deadline looming on Monday. I know we're going to speak about the transfers now, but I mean, if we go to Brentford and lose, and there's no players coming by Monday evening or Monday night at 11 o'clock, we go into that Liverpool game on a downer, and everybody forgets about tonight. If we can go on the Sunday, get a result, hopefully we've got a player on. Maybe another player comes on Monday. You go into that Liverpool game with Lisa Life, thinking, right, we've got a couple of players on. They can hopefully make an instant impact. We've just come off the back of two big ones, or a big 1.5 decent draw at Brentford, and we've got a cup semi-final where we're 90 minutes from Wembley, and the picture can change quite dramatically. But I just think it would be very, very toxic building if we didn't do any business before the end of the window. We don't get a good result at Brentford. We go out of the cup at Liverpool, go out of the cup at Aston Villa. Forget about smiling next Sunday. There'll be crime watch in North London. So it will, because there'll be people outside the stadium, and that's how on the edge it can be. So it's really important for the club now. They do their best. They support this manager. You've had opportunities. They possibly replace him in the last couple of weeks with how bad the results have been. I don't think too many people would have objected to a change of manager or change of coach based on the form we were in. Someone who's been a massive fan of Ange Postecoglou, we've had a lot of doubts in the last few weeks. Now that we're at this week, he deserves to have this week, and we reevaluate after. But he is the manager they've chosen to support. They've said, and we're hearing from most of the sources close to the club, that they want to give him an opportunity and they want to support him in this window. So go out and support him in this window. If it means paying that little bit extra, then this is the manager that you're supporting. There's no point saying one thing and doing another. Can't hang them out to dry. Give him an opportunity now. Let's be honest, we're second favourites on Thursday night against Liverpool. If we go out on Thursday night with a really strong performance and we lose out to a better team, I can accept that. If we go there and get our pants pulled down, that is where people are going to be, looking at the structure of the club. You haven't even given us an opportunity to compete here. So let's get some business done before the end of the window and give us some light and hope for the second half of the season. Because as we said, Chris, sometimes in your worst league seasons, I've referenced a few clubs, it can have a magical ending. So let's hope that's going to come true for us this season.
So we are recording this now at past midnight. So it is now the 31st of January. Of course, the transfer deadline day this year is the 3rd of Feb. 11 p.m. UK time. Now, most of Thursday, so many media reports have come out stating that Spurs are interested in Matisse Tell of Bayern Munich, the 19-year-old attacker. Fabrizio Romano has literally just tweeted the following: Tottenham have presented their project to Tell with his agent, with game time as key factor. Spurs also had direct meeting with Bayern to guarantee €60 million fee in case Tell decides to accept. And he now needs time to decide, with several clubs keen and in talks. Dustin, talking about the transfer window, of course, we've got Kinski over the line. That was meant to be a summer signing, but Spurs brought it forward because of Vicario's injury. Are you surprised at this stage, particularly when Ange Postecoglou has said so many times publicly, we need help, we need players?
I'm not surprised because it's what the club ownership does. I mean, we've never truly rebuilt, right? Poch talked about it in All Nothing. He's talking about, the furniture and everything, all kinds of analogies. So the thing about it is that we've never rebuilt from them. We changed manager, we changed the style of manager. We had Jose, who wanted his favorite players. We had Conte, who wanted, 3 centre backs and wing backs. We had a lot of players stuck on long contracts. And I think a big part of this is actually, we used to do the contract extensions to get players onto longer contracts, and then the players got wise to it and they started running their contracts down. So we ended up with a lot of players that we wanted to sell for better values, but the players just decided to run the contracts down to the end and then leaving on freeze. So that has resulted in the squad rebuild taking a long time. We may feel like we've had enough windows to be better, but I'll point to the fact that we still have Reguilon, Brian Hill, Højbjerg, Manuel Salonen on the books, and have only just managed to sell Ndombele, Lo Celso, Davinson Sanchez, as evidence that bad signings made in the past take time to wash out of the system. And we've also got our homegrown quotas and club trained quotas are a mess as well. So even if we want to sign players, sometimes just because they're a foreigner or they're not club trained or not homegrown means that signing this foreign player means you can only sign English for this particular role, which may not be a fit as well. So I think that I understand for that reason why we don't sign anyone in January, because there's a lot of thought that you need to go into for that, because you might end up signing a Timo Werner, for example. So you do want to sign someone that's actually going to help the squad. But on the other hand, I think where the frustration comes in is when we have all these complex terms. I mean, we've seen the tweets saying that, we have our contract that we've given Matthias Tells has all kinds of clauses in it. I think that's where the irritation comes in, just simplify the contract. Don't do this complicate it with a loan to buy and all these clauses where the player just goes, this is too complicated, I think I'll just go to United, right? I think that's where the frustration comes in. We could sign Grealish, we could sign all these players, and then we overcomplicate this, and then we end up not signing anyone, and we just Leandro Damião everything.
Matt, what are you thinking about the transfer window? Are you surprised that Spurs haven't got much business done, particularly when Postecoglou has been crying out for signings?
Listen, I met Alan Sugar just before he gave up Spurs, and I met him I had a day, it was my birthday, and I was in the corporate rooms, and I chatted to him. I said to him, yeah, thanks for what you've done for the club. He goes, really? And I said, this new lot has come in. I said, what are they like? He goes, they'll be the same as us, probably. I said, well, they won't spend it. He goes, we won't spend it. He wouldn't spend on Carlos Kickable. Daniel Levy came in. The first thing he did, and a lot of people forget this, we were in a cup semi-final with Arsenal, and he sacked George Graham. The one person that could have probably dictated how we beat Arsenal in that semi-final. And I won't forget that semi-final because it was Old Trafford, and I was sitting next to the biggest, ugliest girl in the world. And I said, if we score first, I'm going to give her a kiss. And Doherty scored. I don't know how he did, because Arsenal had about 50 chances on us and should have buried us about 8-0. They wanted to beat us 2-1 in the end. And Sol Campbell, I think, was already playing for him because he sort of went off injured, and that was the last time we ever saw him. And after that, from Enoch had been there, every transfer when I thought you never feel they're going to go for the players. They're going to go to Lidl, they're going to go to Aldi, they're not going to go to the shop. They don't pay the wages. At the end of the day, footballers are greedy little sods. They want the money. They don't, whatever they say about kissing the badge, it's all bollocks. They just want the money. So if they're not going to pay the wages, they're not going to come to us. They're not going to come to Tottenham. They won't come because whether we're in the Champions League or whatever, at the end of the day, they just want to get paid. And the agents will do whatever they're going to do. So I don't get excited. This Tate, that's going to drag on the same way, all the other ones drag on. If he comes, great. If he wants to come, brilliant. Just come and join him. But what I saw tonight is what it's about for me. Youngsters getting up, playing for the club, and the excitement they score when they score. That's why I fell in love with Tottenham. That dream, that possibility that we could do it. So I don't care if they buy no one. If players come on and play for the club and just give everything they've got, well, we win, lose, or draw. That's what I care about. That's it. It's done.
And if you look at the players, that have been arguably our greatest ever players, Gareth Bale, Harry Kane, they came through the club system, right? We didn't buy. We're not good buyers of expensive players. Our top signings or our most expensive signings have been Davinson Sanchez, and Ndombele, Brennan Johnson, right? We don't spend big money well, but we do develop players well.
Yes.
Gareth, it looked like it was originally going to be a loan. Spurs wanted it to be a loan, and now they're talking about a €60 million fee. What do you make of the player? And more importantly, Ange Postecoglou has said so many times it's about players that want to join Spurs. And now it seems that the player is coming out and saying, well, let's see what other offers come in first.
Yeah.
Chris, I'll be honest with you. I'm extremely worried about how this window's going to end for us because this is an opportunistic signing. This player became available in the last couple of days, and half of Europe's interested in him because he could be available on a loan deal until the end of the season. I don't think he's that interested in leaving Bayern Munich. I think he would probably prefer to just go on a loan, get some football, and come back to Bayern Munich and see what happens next season because he is so young. He's only 19, so it's not he's not in a rush to leave. It's not a player that's 23, 24 and needs a move now to get his career on the line. He's got time on his side. And by certain reports, it seems like he has a bigger interest of joining our clubs and maybe coming here. But I'll speak on the club before I come to the player because I think if this goes wrong, we're really stuck because it seemed like we were running out of places to go, running out of ideas, running out of time. All of a sudden, this player becomes available, and then we've gone on for him. And another thing I think as well, that people are maybe being blindsided by with this €60 million fee, roughly 15 million sterling, is that Bayern Munich owe us money for the Kane. So we're not really having to spend anything. We're almost like getting this on credit because, it's not like we're going to a club we haven't done business with recently and dropping down €60 million. Apparently Bayern Munich owe us a lot of money from the Kane transfer still. So it's almost like it's just credit coming off. So again, we're not really having to use any new money. So I think that's partly the reason that we've been able to throw this money down to Bayern Munich. And I think if Bayern Munich had it their way, they would be booking his plane tickets over to North London because I think it suits them too. And the fact that they don't have to exchange any money for Kane. So it's almost like the two clubs are using that as a way of getting the deal done. And I think that's why we've gone on permanently because I think we realised that in a loan deal, we're probably not at the top of the tree. The key now is if Bayern Munich turn around to the player and say, look, we've got a permanent offer for you. It's either you stay here or we accept this fee and you go and move to Spurs. Because I see when I'm seeing all these reports about he needs hours to think about it and he wants to sit down. And it does seem like he's biding his time and maybe he's been told. And from what I hear from a number of sources, Arsenal are very interested in him, but it would probably only be a loan deal. But, let's be realistic. Why would you not want to join Arsenal? They're in the Champions League. They've got a really good draw. They finished third, so they're high up in the, they should avoid some of the bigger teams until the end. They're still only a half a chance of winning the league. That is a much more appealing option than Spurs is right now. So I think it would be a big coup now to pull this off just because of the teams that are interested. For me, I think it's a lot of money on a 19-year-old that's not set the word delight. The boy's got ability, the boy's got talent, but we've seen this situation with Sancho and players like that that's come from Germany and it's not really worked out, and you're stuck with this player on a big fee that nobody else will pay. And I kind of feel that because of the profile and the interest, the wages aren't going to be cheap. I feel like we're probably going to have to pay a lot more wages for this 19-year-old than a lot of the other 19-year-olds at the club. So it won't be a cheap deal that way. But the worry for me now is if we don't get this player in, I'm not sure we're going to get anyone better. I mean, I'm seeing some of the other names being linked, and I mean, they look really, really, they flatter to deceive you, put it that way. I'm not really sure they're going to make much of an impact. So I kind of feel that this is a gift horse in the mouth, and the fact that we can pay with a credit that Bayern Munich owe us, we can get a player and that people actually know who he is. And if he hits the ground running with a point to prove, it could be useful. I mean, he can play off either side, he can play through the middle. The boy's got ability. He's quite physically developed for a 19-year-old, but he's very inconsistent and he's very raw. And will he hit the ground running? The club are probably looking at it as, even if he doesn't, there is a player there for the future that could do a job for us. But I'm looking at some of the other names, Chris, and I'm really thinking, well, these are just going to be an Timo Werner loan job. They're going to come in here and not make much of an impact. And if that's the case, I would rather see the likes of Mur, I would rather see the likes of Ajay given an opportunity, because Timo Werner hasn't done enough, and bringing in an Okafor, was as an R name being linked, I don't really see the value in that. So unless we're going to do something else, but the worry for me now is, Chris, if we were to go and be big money at something else, it smacks of desperation. For whatever reason, the club have not done enough in this window to get players in. Whether that's down to a lack of funds with what they're willing to spend and what they won't, whether they think they can't get certain players that they want now and they have to wait to the summer. But the injury situation really should have accelerated it. And I'm hearing now these reports that they're now starting to prepare for the summer, and that's why they're trying to get Dublin and Gomez in. Well, I mean, why every window should be like that? You should always be preparing for the next one in good time.
Yeah.
So I just can't understand what they've been doing for the last couple of months, because it was pretty evident to see from the start of December that we were losing players quicker than we were losing matches, and that's saying something. And there was really only one way to sort it out, and that was they bring players in, and that has not happened. As you say, it's unforgivable. And this window on a normal year will be closing this time tomorrow night. We've actually got an extra few days, 3rd of February. So we've had, a longer January window than normal, and we still haven't been able to bring anyone in. And look, the goalkeeper come in because we were in an emergency situation, but the outfield situation was just as big as an emergency. And it just seemed now, look, there's a real reluctance, Chris, to break any kind of wage structure at the club. And that's a massive problem moving forward, because if you're a Spurs, you're not one. We are a big club, but we're not at the top table. We're not a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, Bayern Munich, a Man City now because of how successful we've been. A Liverpool, even a Man United with a stellar name, an Arsenal who are on the rise, a Chelsea team that'll throw more money at you than God will. We have to be seen to be able to offer these players some sort of incentive. Because I get the feeling that you want players to come because they want to be here, but that's not a barometer for success. All our teams have paid
not how the world works
for players and won trophies. We've won nothing. So whatever we're doing isn't working. So we have to try something different, and that sometimes means taking that odd risk. Not a risk that's going to put us on financial risk, but a risk that you think might be worth taking and could be benefited. Because how many players, Chris, have we seen linked? I'm not saying every one of them we were seriously interested in, but we've seen times where we've been linked with a player that's went to our club, an our big club, and absolutely ripped it up. And we're sitting here with a £10 million player from France that nobody's heard of, and within a year or two, he sold a team in Turkey.
The only thing, though, Gareth, what I would say is these extra few days, taking it up to the 3rd of Feb, now that every team that were in European competition, if they know that they're through or they know that they're now out, more players will become available. So let's wait and see what happens.
Basically, we got Kinski because Slavia were out.
Hello.
Is that the cat?
Last question for you all, Dustin. Let's do score predictions now for the Brentford game. What are you going for?
Well, I don't think we're keeping a clean sheet. 3-2 Spurs.
And are Spurs going to the Carabao Cup final?
Yes.
You're confident today, Dustin. I love it. Matt, what are you going for?
The Brentford game, Yeah, I think Dustin has named it. It's either going to be 2-2 or 3-2. It's going to be a 5 goals in it. I hope it's us 3-2. As far as are we going to beat Liverpool, I think we might draw up there. I think it'll be a draw. I think we're going to get a draw. I think at the last minute, Bergvall will come on in the last minute. He will handball the ball in the back of the net. No one will see it. VAR will miss it. And be right in front of the cop. And he'll stand there and go like that. And the Liverpool fans will go absolutely mental and crazy and start claiming all sorts of replay. And we'll get through the Wembley. That's what I think is going to happen.
And the entire bench gets sent off,
yeah, that would be it. That would be my
for
prediction.
protesting in dissent.
Yeah, totally. All getting that. Yeah, Virgil van Dijk just walks off, kicks a strop, breaks his leg, and then that's it. It's all over. Yeah. That's what's
Gareth, have you had what Matt and Dustin have had this evening?
Fortunately not, Chris. I want some of that. I want some of that so good. These are definitely on the so good. Has to be on the so good.
Gareth, what score prediction are you going for? And are Spurs going to the Carabao Cup final?
I think Sunday will be a draw. I actually think it could be quite a boring enough game. I don't see it being fireworks like some of our other games. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. And honestly, I don't think that's a bad result. I think if I steady the ship, get into that Liverpool game, a bit of confidence that we've not lost at Brentford. And then the Liverpool game, Chris, I think it's going to go one of two ways. I think we're going to get absolutely rinsed, and I mean rinsed 5 or 6, or we're going to scrape through. I don't see it. I can't see us losing a tight game 2-1. I just don't see that happening. I think it's going to be one of them ones where the camera will pawn on Chris Cowlin and the away end. He's side over his hands, or you're going to see the Spurs away end in absolute raptures. But I just have an inkling that something might fall our way in this cup competition, because we have had them we bit of breaks in the cups where things have sort of went their way a wee bit. So how interested will Liverpool be in the cup? Who knows? They've got bigger fish to fry. They've won this competition before. I was actually speaking to a Liverpool fan. He says, look, of course we only won. But he says to me, if he's beat us, I couldn't care less. He says, we only won the Champions League or the Premier League. So maybe, well, that's it. Maybe that could work in our favour. We're going to have to keep Salah quiet. I think Spence has to play. I think Spence has done quite well against Salah. So I'll definitely play Spence at left back in this game. And as I says, I would really pack them on field with Basuma, Bentancur and Kulusevski. And the Firmino and Van de Ven's at the back. That gives us half a chance. So I'm going to say it's going to be a 2-2 draw at Anfield.
I don't even know what to predict, because you just don't know how to predict Spurs, do you?
I'll predict a red card for sure. I'll predict there's definitely a red card in the Liverpool game.
Yeah, that's going to be a fiery encounter, I think. But
that's why I would play more of our experienced players, but because the youngsters could get sucked into that atmosphere.
Yeah.
And they already have a problem with Bergvall, don't they, after the last game with the goal?
As I said, yeah, watch it.
Yeah. Dustin, thank you so much for joining us this evening or this morning in your time. Where can people find you on social media? What are you up to at the moment?
Well, they can find me at Luminoir Common Use Spurs Coys on Twitter or X.
Thank you so much. We look forward to having you on again very soon, Dustin. And Matt, thank you so much for coming on the Spurs Chat podcast for the first time. I hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to having you back again soon. What are you up to at the moment? Where are you gigging? What's happening?
Just about to release a new single called High Banked Roll. It's I've been in the studio, been recording. That's why I'm a bit tired and a bit kind of there. I watched the game, as I said, on a dodgy site, which I won't watch again, and I wish I hadn't. Saw things I shouldn't see, really.
Look, we're an award-winning show, and you come on here and say,
I know, I brought it right down. You're an award-winning show that gets death threats and everything, and I'm just going to bring the love. But yeah, no, I'm playing. I do 100 gigs a year. I don't know what I'm playing. I don't know what I'm doing tonight, let alone tomorrow. Don't ask me. But yeah, ransom.rocks. Follow me there, and you can follow the band and follow what we're doing, and it'll all be fun. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been really good. I listened to these two guys, really intelligent, really forthright. It's really nice to hear. So well done, boys. And I'm sorry if I brought the tone down a little bit. I was doing my best to try and fit in and pretend I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't. But thank you. It was a pleasure to be on him.
Thank you, mate. You've been absolutely wonderful, and we look forward to having you on again very soon. Thank you.
Pleasure.
And Gareth, where can people find you, and what are you up to at the moment?
You can find me on that Twitter name, of course. You see, I'm obviously still coaching away, still do the own podcast. I'll probably have a Liverpool fan on, probably have 2 Spurs fans and 2 Liverpool fans on Tuesday night, looking ahead to the semi-final of the Cup. So as it says, Chris, it's an award-winning show. We award-winning predictions there from the two boys tonight. So I hope these predictions ring true, or there might be a couple of more threats from fans. But brilliant. They had brilliant on with the two lads. The commitment from Dustin. They get up that early in the morning, they watch the game, come on and do a podcast. And when Chris tells you to come on for an hour, sometimes you could be sitting for 5 hours. So you just don't know. Once I've seen us past the 1 hour mark, I was thinking I might have to ring into work like tomorrow because I'll still be on the podcast. But at least we're getting wrapped up.
Gareth, I think it's fair to say we would have been here for an hour if it wasn't for you keep giving me the longer answers.
Yeah,
that's all my fault then. But no, brilliant to be on, Chris. And of course, a bit of a celebratory night. You in the award. Spurs won 3-0. The youngsters come through the ranks, and look, hopefully that's the barometer now for the rest of the season. Let's kick on in February. Let's get a couple of players on before the window shuts, and let's get to Wembley next week. Come on, the Spurs.
Absolutely. As I said, it is a huge week. Let's hope that we can sign some players. Let's hope that we can pick some points up in the Premier League Sunday. Let's hope that we can win a couple of cup games next week, and we're all smiling throughout, from now until the end of the season anyway. And as Dustin said, to win a trophy or two, it would be absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for all of your support, everyone. Gareth, Dustin, Matt, thank you so much for your time. We will see you on the next edition of the Spurs Chat podcast after Sunday's game against Brentford. Stay well and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.